Welcome to Aquatech. This year again, I have 5 cool picks for you, 1 special award and some fun bits, so let me show you. But first, some numbers. If you see people walking around me, it's because 25,000 water professionals came here to Aquatech. In total, 900 exhibitors came to Aquatech, and I have some fun facts. This is the largest one. Can you spot me? In total, 140 countries were represented amongst the exhibitors with an increased presence from China and 3 DJs. To spice things up, you'll love number 3. 350 speakers came to make a speech like that one, and I handpicked some to show you. There are 13 job offers on the job board, 3 of them being from Hulu. You should definitely reach out to Robert. I think overall we could do much better, come on. And you know what, who can do better? A scale up, so let's kick off our picks with number 5, Hope Hydration.
If you own any land that meets kind of our metrics of impact and advertising, we will give you the station for free, and we will also pay you an ongoing fee to be able to host the location. It's free. And also, it's a new revenue driver for you. So we have a lot more demand than we can even fill right now. So anyone's listening that has $200 million and wants to give it to us, please. If our goal is to own a category like Red Bull, how would you structure it? So we started Hope Hydration about 5 years ago. What we realized was public drinking water infrastructure is decades behind where it needs to be. When you think about your walk in the park, your walk on the street, if there is even water infrastructure, water fountains you can access, they typically maybe don't work, maybe they're not filtered, they're not cleaned. There's this massive gap between, as a consumer, you're thinking, I need something quick and I need something I can trust. And you've got the store here, you can buy a plastic bottle, or you've got this fountain here that maybe works, maybe doesn't. It's an easy decision as a consumer. You say, I'm going to go to the store, of course, it's $1 or €1, and I'm going to buy something. What would it take to put free drinking water access on every street corner of every city around the world? What do we need to do to get that? Well, in our opinion, we needed to do 2 things. One, we needed to redesign, reimagine the actual infrastructure itself. It's very analog, so we wanted to bring it into the modern world. There needs to be data capabilities. We need to really design a UX and UI that the consumers trust, but also they want to share that experience with other people. The early examples that we used as references were the rideshare systems in cities. You have Lime and then you have Bird, and of course they have their own complications, but people knew the Lime brand and they trusted the Lime brand, and you'd ride the scooters. Or in New York City, they have City Bike. What does that look like with water? So it's kind of piece number 1. And piece number 2 is funding. There's a huge gap in funding around water infrastructure. You're relying on government money or grants, and then what happens when that money dries up? Well, you don't have money for maintenance or filter replacements. Independently, we wanted to find a business model that did not rely on any kind of large approved budgets, and that also funded our stations forever, because in year 10 you need to change parts, and if you don't have money, well, then it doesn't get changed, and then it decays, and we end up in the same situation. We spent about a year surveilling the market, and we said, well, there's a really beautiful kind of intersection between our mission, which is have people refill water, and advertising, which wants as many people interacting with their ads as possible. Now, 5 years later, we have what I think is the world's only, definitely the world's first, drinking water network funded through advertisements. And we primarily operate in venues, so airports, stadiums, in cities. We can work with the cities or with private developers, and then events like Coachella, Formula One. You need a quick solution. They have sponsors, advertisers, and that's what we do and how we operate.
When you say network, that means it's a modular, scalable, movable network. If you don't have fixed stuff, it's on event space, so you have to move stuff around. How many of these Hope cabins do you have?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we actually have 2, they look the same, but 2 systems. One is meant for events, so you can pack them in and out in 20 minutes and plug them in, and we could put one here, and tomorrow it could be gone. And then we have our permanent network, which is permanently installed.
How big is the permanent one?
By summer of this year, our permanent network probably will be about 50 units.
Where?
And right now concentrated in the United States, and our city concentration is Los Angeles, California, Austin, Texas, Miami, and New York. We, for example, have the only drinking water fountain in all of Times Square in New York City because the model was very attractive, right? As Times Square, as a city, as a stadium, as an airport, we come in and we say, hey, you don't have to pay a cent. Instead of paying for the stations, paying for the maintenance, we cover 100% of that. We sell the advertisements, and actually, if you own a stadium and we create a deal, I will write you a check back as a percentage of what we're making from the advertisement.
So you're plugging on the existing network, you're filtering that.
Correct.
Additionally, for the end user, what is the promise versus bottled water? The reason I'm asking is that you mentioned California. In California, 80% of the people drink bottled water. One may argue not 80% of the people don't have access to clean drinking water. So how do you overcome that element so that you make the perception of the water you're serving as good as what they expect from a bottle.
Totally. That is the question to ask. Because there's kind of two things that have to go hand in hand. There's one, the actual product. People need to trust it, right? And physically, you need to have the right technologies, the right pieces inside for it to be better quality than what you find in bottle. And that's everything from the way that we operationally maintain the units, making sure that they're always best quality, the filtration. So we work with Pentair and their Everpure line, and they, depending on which city, we can scale up or scale down the actual filtration. So that's piece number one that you have to have, which is missing in most of the market. The second is marketing. You're going up against billion-dollar brands that are selling you something in store. You go to any of the big tennis matches, any of the big soccer matches, there is a huge water partner there. That's marketing, right? At the end of the day. And by creating the positive associations when you're at your favorite music festival, at your favorite sporting event with that bottle brand, then when you're in the store, you say, of course, well, they were at the US Open and I love Rafa Nadal, so of course I'm going to trust. And so we have to do the same thing. And I think the piece that we're really trying to do with Hope is we are a B2B2C company. Like our clients are advertisers. They're not the end consumer. Water is always free. But we need to use that and build a brand that is consumer facing to build that trust. One of our superpowers is that we're at Formula One, we're at Coachella, we're at these massive, really kind of leading either events or, at your favorite airport, at your favorite stadium. By association, we have a brand presence there.
You have those two use cases, the fixed and the modular event-based Coachella Formula One. Mid-term and long-term, do you want to keep building the two, or is there a favorite child?
At the beginning, it was only event-based.
Brand building.
Brand building and cost, right? We didn't have money to build 100 stations. We had a credit card. I could afford 3 on my credit card. So we did 3, and we said, well, we're not going to make a big impact with 3 in a city, but we can if we keep reusing these 3, one event, the next event. And so we built the business on events. I think the longevity of the business and the scale happens with permanent, but there's no better brand builder than if you're dancing your heart out at your favorite music festival and you're hot and it's $10 to buy a water bottle here, or with Hope, it's free. We're serving primarily major urban areas, especially in the United States. How can we use either our technology platform or develop one that serves the greater world, especially areas that don't have clean running water? I mean, there's plenty of cases in the United States.
I was going to say, you have this EPA survey every year which says that the infrastructure decay is worsening. There is basically 2 ways to look at that. The first is someone is going to pour the 700 million it needs right now to bring it back to state.
Yeah.
Or you go in an India type of situation where they enter kind of the post-utility era, where utilities serve water, but they never have the claim that the water is safe. And then it's on the people to have their under the sink appliance, point of use, point of entry. So that could be a possible market for you.
Totally.
It's on the one hand, the fastest growing segment in water tech.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's also the most competitive.
Of course.
So where do you see Hope Hydration?
Where do I see us in 20 years? Every city even is going to have a very specific model that works. The North Star vision, why we wake up every day, is that you can walk within a minute anywhere around the world, find free filtered drinking water because of the Hope platform. On the brand piece, really, really important that in 10 years, what we aspire to do is that if you see a Hope station, you immediately trust, I can drink this. So if you and I go on vacation to Bali tomorrow and they say, you shouldn't drink the tap water because you're going to get sick, but you see a Hope station, oh no, Hope's done the work, of course you can drink from that.
But that has an additional level of complexity because that means now you're building a distributed utility, which means there is maintenance, operation, reparation, stuff like that. And
totally.
That is something different from building cool water units.
Totally. We tackle that in the United States now, and we're building a platform that scales. But the question is, how can we scale a technology to solve that operational kind of maintenance piece, that it isn't one man hour or woman hour in, one man or woman hour out. It's a platform that can basically streamline the whole process. So we've developed internal tech systems, alerting. We work with a lot of partner, either startups or corporates on their technology to be able to automate that whole thing, where instead of having to send someone out every day or every week and check and make sure everything is good and it's all run by a system that sends alerts. And so we can be on the ready if alerts happen anywhere in the world, but we don't have to spend the labor hours to be able to make sure that the infrastructure is there, only to resolve issues as they come up.
Are you the type of business where if an investor comes in and puts 200 million and say, go burn my money, you can just roll out everywhere and just take the market by storm?
Candidly, we have way more demand for the station locations than we can fill. There's two pieces for this to work, so I'll take a step back. We need the locations and we need the advertisers. In the ad business, as you scale and have more locations, the sale gets easier, especially with corporates. The work to buy one screen in New York City is the same or almost the same work to buy 1,000 screens, because you have to create the content, you shoot it, you edit it, and then you publish it. But the publishing is a small piece of work. So as we scale the network, the sale becomes easy. If you own any land that meets kind of our metrics of impact and advertising, we will give you the station for free, and we will also pay you an ongoing fee to be able to host the location. So anyone who's thinking about, I just renovated my brand new state-of-the-art stadium and I need 200 water stations and I'm going to spend $5,000 per station. Okay, $1 million here. It's free. And also it's a new revenue driver for you. So we have a lot more demand than we can even fill right now. So if anyone's listening that has $200 million and wants to give it to us, please. But we also don't want to grow too fast, because if we grow too fast, everything falls apart and you need to keep tight controls. And so if tomorrow someone gave us 200 million and said you have a year to spend it, we would probably fail because we grow too fast. I mean, we've grown revenues, give or take, like 120x over the last 24 months.
Not bad.
Not bad. Every day we push the limits of how fast can we grow, but you grow too fast as well, and it's also a problem.
I have two last questions, a stupid and a clever, or less stupid. The stupid one is, do you know that it was a TikTok viral hits? There were 2-3 different videos of that, of a brand who was doing free bottled water paid by advertising, yes. And they were making that viral through a guy playing like the angry customer saying, yes. Oh, that must be...
Water? Free water? We're a free beverage company called Free Water. The water's free because the packaging is the ad space.
Do you aim at that kind of activations, or do you say, no, our brand building is association to Coachella, Formula One. We don't want the nasty guy on TikTok being our way to...
I give credit to Free Water because they know how to get viral engagement. You see their videos. We have a different approach to it, but at the end of the day, any media or any press is good press. I look at brands that really resonate with what we're trying to build, and Red Bull's a good example. It's a can of energy, but you think about any extreme sports ever, and you think about Red Bull. You think about someone jumping from space and parachuting, Red Bull. Triple backflip on the mountains is Red Bull. They've found the category that really resonate with them, and then they own it. Our tagline is refill your next adventure. So we're not necessarily targeting the extremists, the extreme sports athlete. We're targeting everyday people, but we want to be part of your next adventure.
You were the one bringing up Red Bull, so I allow myself that question. Red Bull doesn't produce Red Bull. Red Bull only does the branding and the association, everything. Long term, it's a very different job between creating the whole hydration brand and
maintaining the machine.
Maintaining the machine and stuff like that. So would you see that eventually partnering with a Panther or partnering with whoever is in point-of-use, point-of-entry type of business, and you take care of the branding element and you become like a premium vehicle for this kind of...
So it's funny you bring up Penta. They are investors of ours and partners, and so we work with them on a lot of cases. When you think about 10-year growth, how do you structure the organization? Is there a marketing company and an asset-owning company? And how do you... They're completely different management. To be interesting, in 10 years, we'll rewatch and we'll have a follow-up to tell you what that strategy was. But it is something we're working on all the time, of who are the right partners in the space that are much bigger than us that we can learn from. And we go to them when we say, hey, if our goal is to own a category like Red Bull, how would you structure?
Closing question.
Of course.
You were speaking here. I guess you have a message to bring to people. So now if you look straight in the camera, you have 1 or 2 sentences. What is the take-home message you want people who might have been at Aquatech or might not have been at Aquatech to take home from Hope Hydration?
Depending on who you are, I've got a few different messages. If you are a consumer, reach out to Hope Hydration and tell us where we can install that you want to refill at. We want to bring water within a 30-second minute walk everywhere around the world. So tell us where you are, where you want us to be, and we'll do everything that we can to be there. That's number 1. Number 2, if you are a corporate, a technology company, and you're interested in working with us, you see synergies in our business models and our technologies, please reach out as well, because we're only as good as our partnerships. Partnership with Pentair, our partnership with T-Mobile, they're instrumental in us being able to do what we could do. We're a small team. And then third, if you're a funder, if you're an investor and you're interested in the space, $200 million check goes a long way, and we can do a lot of good with that. But it's very strong returns, it's very high growth, and obviously it's got to be a right fit. We look for value add and aligned partners, but if you think you're that, reach out and we'd love to talk.
Awesome. That was absolutely catchy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And see you in 10 years.
See you in 10 years.
George and his co-founder Christina were actively lobbying here to have Hope Hydration fountains, but so far, nothing in sight. Maybe a good idea for the next edition of Aquatech in March 2027. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to quickly thank my sponsor, Simple Lab. If you're in the water industry and you're running a water quality sampling campaign or tweaking plant process performance, Simple Lab has you covered. You can easily order online from over 275 commercial labs. Simply put, Simple Lab is a one-stop shop for everything from routine testing kits to specialized analyses like PFAS or microplastics. You don't have to juggle multiple labs and complicated logistics anymore. Instead, you get a single, streamlined process for ordering kits and reviewing results. Plus, there's always a real person to talk to, so if you're tired of cobbling together lab documents and quotes and services for each new requirement, or you just want to try a new way for more efficient testing of water samples, check out Simple Lab. They're all about making water quality testing, well, simple. So head to their website, the link is in the description, line up the tests you need, hit order, and let them handle the rest. Thanks Simple Lab for supporting my work. Check them out to support me, and back to me. For now, you know what? Let's move to our number 4, Qua.
Antoine, you told me there would be no balance in this video.
No balance in this video. We are bragging. Okay, I could say Aquatech is at Aquatech, but you did it yourself. So I'm going to say Qua in Aquatech is at Aquatech.
Qua is also at Aquatech. Qua is Aquatech, the water company's membrane subsidiary, and we manufacture very high quality ultrafiltration membrane bioreactor and electrodeionization products, both in polymeric and in ceramic membranes. So if you need a polymeric membrane, we can do that. If you need a tuned nanofiltration ceramic membrane, we can do that as well.
So you mean that Aquatech is already a company doing a lot of different things, and inside those lot of other things you have Qua, and Qua can't even decide between polymeric and ceramic, say, hey, you want the two, we'll have the two.
Why not do both? Exactly.
So that's your general rule. Whenever you can do technology, you do technology.
In general, that is the rule of Aquatech. Whatever can be done in water technology, I would say we can do. So if you need a membrane, we can manufacture you a membrane and it'll do great. If you need a very large zero liquid discharge facility built in the middle of nowhere, we can do that, and that's what we're best known for. But Aquatech also has very strong technology and biological treatment, even decentralized biological treatment. We also have electrochemical PFAS destruction, we have ultra-pure water technologies, and we have operations capabilities as well across dozens of sites around the world.
If I'm right, Qua got a very cool reference in Sweden last year on green steel manufacturing, right?
Yes, Qua's equipment is being used to produce ultra-pure water for hydrogen cells, which is being used as part of the green steel process. And there is a lot of chemistry involved here, but the fundamental exciting thing about green steel is if you can produce hydrogen on site, you can use hydrogen in your steel making process instead of carbon. And what that means is at the end of your steel, instead of having steel, carbons and oxygens, CO2, you have steel, hydrogens and oxygens, or water. So you've removed the carbon emissions from the steel making process itself. And as well as that, we're powering the entire project at Stegra in Boden in Sweden, 80 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle, fantastic location, is entirely powered by renewables. So we've removed 99% of the carbon dioxide and carbon emissions from the steel process at the green steel facility.
And that is a pure Qua project, or is it Qua to Aquatech to the project?
So that is Qua equipment being used in an Aquatech project.
I see, okay. You are actually on the, I think it's brand the Circular Economy Pavilion, but it's held by Global Water Intelligence.
Exactly.
Global Water Intelligence arranges the Global Water Summit, and at the Global Water Summit, there are several awards, one of which you are in the shortlist for, and that's the
Water Technology Company of the Year Award. So we are shortlisted for this award, and we're very, very happy to be. I think we are...
Against whom?
We are against Veralto, against Ovivo, and against Xylem.
Okay.
Of course, Aquatech is the one that deserves the award, so I encourage all Global Water Intelligence subscribers, all Global Water Summit registrants to vote for Aquatech in this category.
Veralto, Xylem, some of the very largest companies in the water world. Ovivo, somewhat in between, part of Skion, okay. You are the outsider in that list, because you're the small one. People want to root for an outsider. I'm sure you're going to have plenty of reasons why they should vote for you. I'm going to ask you for one reason.
Just one reason. Yeah. Fundamentally, what sets Aquatech apart from other technologies is that we innovate at great speed and with great rigor across an extremely wide range of technologies. So if you look at our nomination, which you can do online at globalwaterawards.com.
The link is in the description. That way we have that out of the way.
You can put it on the screen. Yeah. You can put a link. People know how to get that.
You know what? Let's go overboard. Let's put everywhere, like vote for Aquatech, vote for Aquatech, vote for Aquatech.
Vote for Aquatech.
Okay. And then I have to do the same for Xylem, Veralto, and Ovivo. But
Antoine, you told me there would be no balance in this video whatsoever.
No balance in this video. We are bragging. Okay.
So if we look at the last year of Aquatech, on the thermal side, we have multiple commercial installations for membrane distillation. which is a technology that I think many have dismissed, but we're very much making work. On the biological side, we have the IGBR, which is a new...
IGBR stands
the
for?
Intelligent Granular Bed Reactor.
Okay.
And that is a decentralized wastewater treatment unit with a very low energy consumption, a very low footprint. On the electrochemical side, we have a PFAS reduction technology called defluoro, which is in partnership with AECOM. But unlike many electrochemical processes, which often have an issue with hazardous byproducts, I should say, we don't have this problem. We produce CO2, we produce water, and a few salts.
You said PFAS reduction. So do you do destruction, reduction, removal?
Well, this is the beauty of Aquatech, having such a wide range of technologies that we can take a very holistic view of. We can actually mix and match. If you need to destroy PFAS on site, the defluoro technology is great for that. If you need to just concentrate and contain, say in an IX or a GAC, we can do that too.
Okay, I need to be the devil's advocate for a second, because the one advice is always pick one thing, double down on that one thing, become the absolute master at that, and when you're the absolute master of that, then expand to the adjacencies. Whereas so far, you've been, in the examples you gave me, in drinking water, in wastewater, in industrial wastewater, in PFAS removal, but also in hydrogen production, in dewatering and zero liquid discharge, but I do know you're also in crystallization of lithium salts. So how can you manage to be in so many lanes?
The reason that we're able to do this is because we're sitting on the water side on a 45-year heritage of engineering, and crucially of almost exclusively organic growth. So what that means is we have a very, very long-serving team, many engineers who've been there for many decades. They've seen many, many projects come and go. We also have a big cohort of young engineers who are extremely energetic and eager to learn from them. The other side of our business that we have is actually on the critical minerals side. And this is not a water technology moving into lithium, which is happening a lot, but it is actually an acquisition by Aquatech from a long time ago of a company that is over 60 years old. So we have a 60-year heritage on the process side, so producing the contaminant as a product, if you like, and 45 years on the water side.
I know we're on January booth, so I'm not gonna be the bad person, or I'm gonna be still. Awards are what they are.
Awards are what they are.
Okay. How important is it to you to win that one?
For me,
when people will want to root for you, and they will need to have a purpose to root for you.
It is always nice to be recognized by your industry, your peers, your colleagues. That's wonderful. Everyone loves it. It's nice to have that moment with, as much as for your company, with your customer, to have that recognition. That's great. But ultimately, what we do on May 15th, when the Global Water Summit is done, will be the same as if, win or lose. We'll keep going. We'll keep pushing for these new technologies, because fundamentally, we love technology. We love the benefits that we can bring with that technology. We'll keep doing this until the world doesn't need water technology anymore.
But you'd prefer to win.
We'd prefer to win. That would be nice.
When I asked you for one, you'd use the trick to give me plenty of them still. I want one reason.
Like one reason.
One, absolutely just one reason.
The one single reason that you should vote for Aquatech as Water Technology Company of the Year, it has to be the breadth. If you imagine you're pushing forward, one truck, you've got a big guy pushing forward one trailer. We've got one guy, he's stuck onto 5 of them and he's pushing them all the way through. No other company is innovating at this pace across every group of water technologies. And I think that is what really sets Aquatech apart.
That's a fair single one, I take it. You're here at Aquatech, and you will have the chance to bump into people. You will have the chance to have, despite the breadth of thing you're delivering, people who don't know you yet.
Yes.
What is the key message you want to bring them across in maximum 2 sentences?
Aquatech is the company that makes industrial water work.
Crystal clear. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.
The bragging and also the interesting stuff inside. I'm dead serious about the fact that you have the link in the description and you can vote for Aquatech. I have no stakes in that game. That's a fun thing. I've been rooting for Gradients last year, so I can be rooting for Aquatech this time. It's fine. Well, I'll see if you get it, and see you in Paris.
All right, wonderful. Thanks very much.
If all of this lobbying didn't convince you, I don't know what you need. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Aquatech. I know it's hard to believe. For now, let's move to my number 3, Holland sensors.
It was an important but non-urgent solution as a byproduct for that company. It was more like a hobby instrument, at that time. And then it worked so well that it could have a right of existence in itself. Thousands of different species of PFAS can be measured with this technology.
Where do we start? Metals or wood?
Well, Antoine, we start with the metals, of course. Well, the problem that we are solving is basically that we can skip the laboratory for measuring metals, because this is the first sensor that can measure metals real time at the PBB level. We start with a portable version in the field to take a sample and to measure each sample. In our roadmap, the next step is an inline version that we measure automatically.
This is the portable version. You can measure instantaneously and you get the result immediately on your iPhone or whatever device you have. So that's a difference as such compared to a lab. Because a lab you typically have to wait 1 day, 2 days or even more. Even if it's not online, you know, it is real time and you can have an instantaneous value, which already makes sense for a lot of applications.
The cool thing actually is that it is fully software driven and that we really focus on a very simple user interface, the user experience. So the interface of the mobile phone is leading. It will guide you through the process. So everybody, even me, can do the measurement.
Let's talk regulation. Because very often in those sensing topic, lab topics, the trouble is that you can do better, but if regulation still forces you to do the traditional way, then you don't. Are you in one of these cases, or does regulation say, if I do it that way, it's good, it's done?
So 2 things. We do not expect that we will replace the lab. Yeah, the lab is the standard, it's the reference. Yeah. You know, regulatory is slow, right? So we aim for a few things. The first one is to do additional measurements in industry. We have a lot of feedback that this once per week or twice per week measurements are not sufficient, can disturb the process, can cause violations in between. So basically there's no mean to control, especially for industry or wastewater, for instance. So this is an additional, but more from an operational point of view than from a compliance or regulatory point of view. The second thing is that yes, in the end we want and we are busy with making a validated sensor that can replace lab in the end. But we don't expect that to be before 3 or 5 years. And the third one is that there are already countries, like in the Middle East, that do have regulation in place where they force you to measure on a continuous basis, whereas there's no technology available. So we have a lot of proof from these countries. They say the moment you give us this instrument, we will sell like crazy because it's already mandatory, but there's no solution to do it.
What is the trick? How do you do it?
So the principle is electrochemical. So it sits in a little environment where you put the sample water in. You need a few droplets of reagent. That's the whole concept of electrochemical sensoring. And there's 3 electrodes. Maybe it's possible to zoom in a bit. And there's 2 standard electrodes, more kind of a reference electrodes. And the big one, that's our little secret. That is the boron doped diamond that until today has not been shown outside the lab environment. So it's more a research setting until now with cables and white coats. And this is the first instrument that was able to get this little diamond with little holes that has been developed for over more than 10 years in a robust instrument. So the little diamond is what makes this electrochemical sensor so special.
How do you come to it? It's like, oh, I wake up in the morning and then, hey, boron doped, that's the way to go.
It was developed in another company as a way to measure silver and copper in drinking water. These ions are added to prevent Legionella. People said, yeah, but how do you know it's not too little or too much that you add? And is it not bad for the environment? That researcher currently is, along with other researchers that used to work on it, in our company now. And he had lots of freedom to come with something. And like you said, he woke up in the morning and thought, well, let's try BDD. Okay. You know, he was the one-man R&D department at that time. And he just tried it and played with it, and it worked on it in between for years. It was an important but non-urgent solution as a byproduct for that company. It was more like a hobby instrument, you know, at that time. And then it worked so well that it could have a right of existence in its own.
You're commercial with the field analyzer or field testing kits?
By end of this year.
By end of this
year. So yes, we're taking in pre-orders, but we are not selling still.
Who are you targeting with the pre-orders?
In the first phase, we would like to target the Dutch market. That's nearby, so the domestic market. There we can learn the fastest. And secondly, we would like to focus on the international market. And the main market that we are focusing on are industry types, the water utilities, water treatment, agri and research.
And now with inline, do you plan to market it yourself, or will you white label it to one of the big ones so that you get their big?
That's a good question. We will find out.
You find out. We are in the middle of that discussion.
Yeah.
And we do realize that for many applications, measuring metals is not the only request of customers. So it makes sense to offer that as a package in a full solution that is typically offered by the big ones.
Now, I'm interested in the more. What is inside the more? And let me give you a hint. I'm told that you might be able to measure PFAS. Is that true?
It is true, and with quite some certainty, we say 80%. We know that the sensor, combined with an existing technology that, as one package, is able to measure PFAS to a very extreme level. So not only yes or no, there's PFAS so much, but really to the family and member part. So thousands of different species of PFAS can be measured with this technology in combination with another technology. You're not going to clean a river when there's no PFAS in it, right? You only waste a lot of energy. So we were surprised to find out that currently there's not a real good PFAS development in progress. So we're excited about it ourselves.
In terms of company building, where are you at? Are you looking for investors and want to make a big bang out of it? Is it more of a type of you need to go to a hack or a browser and become best friends? What is your strategy in all that?
2 weeks ago, we closed a second financing round. So we have a very long runway to do what our roadmap, is, and that is launch this set this year. Next year, we hope to launch the inline version, and the year after, we hope to launch the PFAS version. Our calculations show we don't need any further financing to get there.
We are now capable of moving to a new office that is where we can grow as a team. We have some vacancies available. Please look at our website. We're looking for some good research and development engineers as well.
I will fight. I don't know Holland sensor. We never smoked before, and you have 2 sentences max to catch me, and you can do that by looking into the camera. What do you think?
Do you recognize the struggle with your emissions on metals in a process and the wastewater? Come to Holland Sensor. We have a solution where you can skip the lab and measure real-time the emissions of metals in water.
Oh, cool. That's a tough cookie, Antoine.
Let me pause here for a second to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of a membrane that refuses to break? It sounds unusual, but it's true. Meet Bluefoot Membranes, a Belgian company that has developed the first and only unbreakable membrane specifically designed for MBR, if you're new here, membrane bioreactor applications. This technology is setting a new standard in wastewater treatment. Water engineers and industry experts have tested this membrane, and no matter how much they pull and twist, the membrane holds strong. Now, it's not just about membranes, it's also about an award-winning and passionate team that doesn't take impossible as an answer. The people at Bluefoot Membranes are driven by a mission to make wastewater reuse the new standard, united by a shared purpose to leave a blue footprint on the world. So yes, they manufacture cool membranes, but they also push the boundaries of what's possible in MBR technologies. To learn more about them, check the link to their website in the description. A big thanks to Bluefoot Membranes for sponsoring this episode, and back to me. As you heard, Holland Sensor has a roadmap to detect PFAS down the line, but detecting them is one thing. You probably want to destroy them as well, right? And that's what we'll see with our pick number 2, SUIKI by qDEkkxwvEyg. Let's go to meet them.
We actually reached out to over 8,000 individuals over the first months when we were doing exploration, had more than 150 expert interviews, etc., in order to really kind of clinically decide where we want to start from.
Let's rewind. Hey, let's see what I did, the story. From the beginning. What is SUIKI? How did it came to life?
All right, starting from zero then. SUIKI is an internal startup. They're coming from TDK. So it's a big Japanese tech giant. Some people might know them from the age of cassettes. We also have one here as a demo. It usually sparks some memories. It's a good icebreaker as well. And basically what we're doing is we're building up a PFAS destruction solution. So the mid to long-term idea is to really tap into the core competence of TDK as a corporate giant with a lot of years of experience, and use this and leverage this to build up solutions for PFAS destruction, and over time maybe even an end-to-end solution provider. Ultimately, the way that has come to be, we are a corporate startup, and this is coming from an internal incubator that TDK has. We are the second idea ever to get the approval for funding.
Congrats.
And to thank you and to carve out officially, which is what we are currently doing in the next few months. So that's where our current bandwidth is as well. We're a small team still. We have some lined up deployment cases for the end of the year planned in Italy, and we are testing a few things. We're very closely working with the team in Japan, looking at different materials for our electrodes, because the solution we're starting from, which I don't think I've mentioned, is electrochemical oxidation.
Let's go to that. So different things. Carving the funding, we'll go back to that. Putting aside your upcoming deployment in Italy, also something I'm interested in. I'll put it aside. Let's start with PFAS destruction.
Right.
How do you do that? Electrochemical. But let's be a bit more precise around it. What is your take on it?
On a high level, first to break down the topic of electrochemical oxidation, we have electrodes in the water, and that's the step number one. We put a certain voltage on those electrodes. That voltage, it drives the reactions that can happen in the water. Some of those reactions we want, some of those we don't want. And what we are doing is we are looking at really fine-tuning that in order to be in a certain area where we have more preference towards PFAS and other organic destruction, and to minimize the water splitting part. Because we're the same family of technologies as is hydrogen production, but in our case, we're the opposite end of that spectrum. So every molecule of water that we split is wasted energy, and therefore we're looking carefully through molecular dynamics, DFT, and similar to look at materials, dimensionally stable anodes.
So again, to be clear, if you're producing hydrogen, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to make a very complex topic easily accessible to anybody, regardless of their operator capacity, regardless of their understanding of electrochemical oxidation and similar. And we're doing this with the backing of a large corporate where we can tap into a lot more than just the finance. TDK as a company, within their portfolio, there is high-tech power supply units, which is for us very much a direct utilization thing, right? Furthermore, there is cold plasma sources. There is ultrasound piezo transducers that we could build into the system. So over time, as we expand our personnel capacity, we want to really spread out and become a first point of contact for topics in PFAS destruction.
So in electrochemical oxidation, especially in PFAS fields, usually the core of the IP and the innovation lies whether in the anode or in the cathode or in the reactor or in the combination of the three. In my experience.
Yeah.
Where's your forte?
Of course, there are a few verticals of competence there, and you can do a lot with process engineering and reactor design, but on a fundamental level, most of the innovation lies in the materials you use and how you use them as electrodes. We call this a superpower, basically, because we have some advantages from inside that we tap into, and the material science part is really what we have sort of as a highway of information exchange and really a lot of support that allows us to target things in a more specific way. And of course, I'm speaking a little bit down the line as well. We have a working first version and the first material that we are developing into a system.
I see.
That's what we're currently doing in parallel to the carve-out topics. Once that's done, we're also in parallel working on new materials that will work better, that might target short chain specifically.
Short chain as in GenX or short chain as in TFAs?
Short chain as in TFA.
Okay.
So when we're talking about what we're doing, we're also working with a model compound, right? So what we decided to do is we are currently looking into TFA specifically. We have some good first signs there. I cannot say much because we haven't followed up with real life testing, but we're starting from there. And we're also in the treatment side of things, starting from more complex matrices like landfill leachate and similar in order to open up that market, because it's also, there's a lot of pull coming from that angle because of the complexity of the topic.
So that's the technology. Second bucket I have in my fridge is your deployment in Italy. So how do you turn tech invention into something which is field ready? Pilot testing, I get it, but that's a big step. So how do you overcome that step?
The first thing is to identify an entry point where you don't have to push too much. So because we're talking about a very hot topic at the moment, there's a lot of problems around. We did a lot. We actually reached out to over 8,000 individuals over the first months when we were doing exploration, had more than 150 expert interviews, etc., in order to really kind of clinically decide where we want to start from. And that was step number one in order to even get the samples.
150 expert interviews. It's the absolute way to do. Many overlook that step. Is it your natural inclination or did you get a good nudge?
I have to say we have a lot of very good support in all of this coming also from the incubator environment. I mean, there is a core team there that is focusing purely on helping the ventures and potential ventures do all of this, explore the market, learn how to explore the market, learn how to find the pains, identify the true problems that exist, and then tap into that, right? Because when you find the pain point, everything else and every conversation you have, you can circle it back to that pain point and say, okay, yeah, it's expensive, but you have that problem, we can solve it. So there are a few layers to that negotiation, and step number one is really finding people that are open to even have that thought. Because we have talked to a lot of different industries, a lot of different stakeholders. Quite often you don't get information purely because of the preventive measure of not having information leak out, because of specific regulations, etc. So where we started from is we started also from waste management, because it is not it's a different type of PFAS contamination issue where you don't have a PFAS primary user or producer that is scared about their business.
Yep.
You have somebody that purely has the problem. We got some samples.
The end product, the problem, and also in a more concentrated fashion.
Yes. At the moment, because of waste management, mostly because the concentration part works, but there is no real destruction apart from incineration. So also the concentration step is used in order to minimize the amount of waste that has to be sent to incineration. But that is something where we can tap into most of the time directly. If it's reverse osmosis or something similar, we can tap into that liquid stream. Ultimately, it is about really identifying where we can fit in with the least amount of effort, because we're also a small team. We need to find the focus points and really shed everything else that could waste our time.
So out of these 150 interviews, you pick that, or you get to that Italy deployment. What do you need now to build in terms of having something which is field ready?
Because of the understanding of the landscape of not just the treatment technologies, but also the analytical problems that can occur. If we're talking about fluorine mass balancing in PFAS destruction, if you're treating a stream with a lot of calcium, it can fall out as calcium fluoride and you lose it from the mass balance, right? There's a lot of these very small details that overall turn it into a big problem. So that's still what we are currently dissecting and unpacking with our early supporters. And then we have contacts and people we work with that are deployment companies. So either consultancies or technology providers can also work with us and understand what we are doing and how we're doing it. And that also helps us have a pipeline that is already established. So if we're looking at Belgium as a market, it's great to have a Belgian company that is an implementer, because we also have the language barrier in Europe, right?
Belgium being the only European country with a PFAS regulation on the wastewater side, so probably something which is very interesting for you.
We have the wastewater regulation now coming everywhere from the European directive, but...
European directive is always something you have to be able to... I've opened that bucket and we're here for 2 more hours. Let me take the other topic out of the fridge, and it's interesting because you have an investor stopping by. You are trying to raise investments.
Not really. So that is also the point of being a corporate startup. We are currently having one sole investor, and that is also the company supporting us with the know-how and expertise for the things I have been mentioning, and that's TDK. The way it currently works is that it is fitting into the financial planning of the corporate.
So your financing round would be from TDK? Like TDK
Exclusively, yes.
Okay, so they're pouring out a new pocket because you went into the next stage, and so it's kind of a stage and gate process.
Yes, a lot of those gates were internal. As I mentioned, we did a lot of interviews and reach outs, and this was part of stage number 1, where we had to really prove that there is a pain in the market and that we are addressing something that is truly burning and that we have an advantage to address it quicker, better than the average player on the market. And we have done this, then we have also proven the feasibility of the technology and the idea. That was gate number 2. And then the third was the trifecta of venturability, desirability, etc., where we got the final approval for the funding. And then because it is also a corporate, there's a few more layers of decision making we have to go through. That's where we are at the moment.
Closing question for you today, and that's not for me, it's for the camera. You're at Aquatech. for a good reason. You want to give a message out to the world. Let's imagine someone stops by your booth. You have 2 sentences to tell them what you're about. What do you tell them?
We are about bringing destruction technologies for PFAS to whoever might need them, independent of the problem and independent of the level of expertise, in order to really enable this on-site and avoid forever having to ship things around.
That's crystal clear. Awesome. I'm looking forward to the next step. Before moving to my last pick, let me acknowledge that, especially around here, there are lots of companies that could and should have been in that top 5. So if you believe I missed one, just drop it in the comments. I'm always happy to have cool suggestions. And for now, it's time to move to my number 1 here, which is REDstack.
Range, electrodialysis is more cost-effective than reverse osmosis. Big flows and less than 5 grams per liter of TDS. That is the sweet spot. Is the industry really accepting it? What will happen in North America with Trump? I really don't know. Water is very sexy, but no one look at it sexy. Every startup goes through this phase, right? From startup to scale up. That is exactly where we are. The founding is really go commercial and build the production automatic line. We have a year to do that. This is a heavy change for my team. In 2030, we would like to be in the 20 million euros range.
Explain it to me like I'm 5. What is REDstack?
REDstack is a company that produces the best electromembrane stacks in the world. And we do that to save water, chemicals, and money to our customers.
If I get it right, it started with the concept of blue energy.
Yes.
And you've pivoted from that?
Yes, we're moving a little bit away. The reason is the business case. If you want to produce energy from mixing salty and fresh water, you need a very efficient system. And the electricity that you produce may need some subsidy, which is not available today. So the team, after optimizing the best electromembrane stacks, they turn it back around and they figure out that actually they created and improved electromembrane stacks that reduce 70% of the electricity consumption. And that is a very important breakthrough point for electrodialysis, right? The less electricity that you consume, the more sustainable that becomes electrodialysis.
RED stands for reverse electrodialysis.
Yes.
That's how the company started.
Yes.
And on the way, you discovered that your electrodialysis stack actually was so much better than what is existing that it was more interesting to focus on that one.
Yes. Another aspect is that the market and the legislation make the team to look back, what are we doing with these electromembrane stacks?
Yeah.
A couple of things happens on the way. Nitrogen legislation started to appear in Europe, phosphorus legislation, carbon capture, and many companies start to show interest for our stacks, right? So actually, we don't build the installations, we deliver the core components, so the electromembrane stack. So you could see it a little bit like we are the Intel from the different laptops, and that is exactly where we want to position ourselves.
REDstack inside.
Yeah, we want to be the best electrodialysis stack.
So we explained the red.
Yeah.
Let's explain the stack, because you explain how you the REDstack inside.
Yeah.
What exactly is the size of the stack? I mean, where does it start? Where does it stop?
Basically, what we did differently than other suppliers, electrodialysis, normally the system is built with several packages of membrane, and the electrolyte solution is fed from top down or up down. What REDstack the difference, they externalize the flow distribution system, so the membranes are fed with 2 cross streams.
Okay.
So we feed actually in 2 directions. You get the gas up, out, right? So we build them in this way. What we also did is that by closing the system with an external distribution flow, you can prevent leakages. And that is very important for example, carbon capture or nitrogen removal, where you need to work with caustic solutions, acid solutions, right? It's very different to just removing salt.
You still have the salt gradient in the system.
Yes, yes.
And now you're leveraging that to do something else. And that something else, could it be desalination actually? Or do you only do the advanced stuff? Do you do like the simple stuff like desalination as well?
We cooperate with a lot of other companies, right? So we have 2 main markets, desalination, but we don't want to do desalination from the sea. I will say for that, just use reverse osmosis. That is cost efficient. We look waters that they have no more than 5 grams per liter. And we know that in that range, electrodialysis is more cost effective than reverse osmosis. Big flows and less than 5 grams per liter of TDS. That is the sweet spot. That is one area, and we see that the need is increasing, for example, in the paper industry and beverage. All the companies are adding more chemicals, more biocides, and they are accumulated in the water circuit. And you need to remove that. That is one need, one customers. The other ones is those that we address with bipolar membranes. Okay. Bipolar membranes is a fantastic thing for me. It's a great innovation. You have the anode and the cathode, but you have also an intermediate layer where the water is split through the electricity into protons and hydroxides. This means that you are producing acid and base. For all these new solutions, carbon capture, lithium removal, nitrogen recovery, you need a solution that is acid or base. You recover it through in the electromembranes and you feed it upstream. If you use these bipolar membranes, you recover an element that you want, carbon, lithium, nitrogen, but you also regenerate your chemicals with the less energy as possible.
On one side, you recover the chemicals, on the other side, recover what you wanted to recover.
Yes.
So in that specific type of niche applications like nitrogen, ammonia, lithium, with what type of technology do you compete?
At the moment, we compete with precipitation, other technologies that are recovering those elements. The difference is that here you do it quite selective, you do it quite sustainable by applying very little electricity. And Hi, we are in an interview. And the most interesting part, if you look for sustainable technologies, everyone is busy with Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. The problem of the customer is how I reduce water consumption, how I recover an element in a sustainable way. That should be buying less components or using less electricity. That is a Scope 2, right? So that is one area that I think is very interesting from our proposition.
So the value proposition is on the enhanced ESG through the Scope 2.
Yes.
Does it come with a green premium or are you cost effective?
We are cost effective in the range that I mentioned for desalination. If I go to compete with reverse osmosis in very concentrated streams, we know that better use reverse osmosis. Now, the other difference is that reverse osmosis is all or nothing, right? You push it through pressure and you get fresh water. Electrodialysis, you can control it. You can control the degree of desalination through the electricity that you apply.
So you could keep some minerals inside or some and decide on the recipe.
Think on the following. For example, I have a customer that he's taking water for his company and has a lot of chlorides. Some months he has 300 ppm, 400 ppm of chlorides. Then you want the stack to go full capacity, 60%, 80% to stacks. But on the months that he doesn't have 500 ppm of chloride, has less of 100, you don't want to use electricity that is not needed. So then you want to bring the electricity down and just remove what is needed of salt. That is the fundamental difference between electrodialysis and reverse osmosis. And we have two completely different products spots, right? I always think that you need to complement things. I don't think no one will solve the holy grail by its own. I always say we are in the lower range of salinity. Reverse osmosis is really good for sea desalination because you have big gradients, more than 10 grams per liter, right, of TDS. That use reverse osmosis, but for the smaller ones, I would say consider electrodialysis. It's a very interesting alternative that reduces electricity through this optimized stack. Now, the CO2, nitrogen, and lithium market is a very new market. We're helping other startups, right? There is a lot of carbon capture from air, from sea.
It's a question like, who's your favorite chat? But between the three you mentioned, so carbon capture, nitrogen, and lithium, what is the one which sounds the most promising right now?
Carbon capture, up to 1 year ago, everyone was hitting $400 per ton of CO2. Today, because implementation has taken longer, everyone is going for 300, 400, right? That says something about the market. SDG goals promote carbon capture. Is the industry really accepting it? What will happen in North America with Trump? I really don't know. I wish to see that we will continue promoting carbon capture because you have to compensate in some way if you're responsible. But I cannot deny there is a lot of politics involved anytime that we're implementing a legislation, right?
But the same would be true with lithium, and the same would be true with nitrogen.
Lithium will be very much depending on what China does with lithium, Chile, Argentina. Metals, they always, you have a peak and a down, so we have to see what will happen. The nitrogen, phosphorus, and salinity, I think those are driving more for the legislation. There is a scarcity of ammonia and phosphorus, for example, so the industry is driving to recover those elements. You have to. The same with the salt. If you let the salt in your industry, you will have issues with the chloride. If it goes through to your biological wastewater treatment plant, that today is 80% of the wastewater treatment plants will also have a problem. Salinity affects the biology.
Of course.
So salt, we need to remove it in some points.
I noticed that among your top 3,
Yeah.
there is not hydrogen. The hype curve of hydrogen went up and down.
Yeah.
But at the height of the hype curve,
Yeah.
you notice that within your system, you're creating hydrogen. Is it something you're still pursuing or you stopped?
No, at the moment not. We are really following what the markets are demanding, and when we see there is a logical need, so legislation. I think your question about the carbon capture is very interesting because I don't know if this will be a market for 2 years and then will disappear. The ammonia, I think that will continue growing. The salinity will continue growing, that market, definitely. But at this moment, we are betting to 4 or 5 markets. The hydrogen is not part of our strategy.
Those 3-4 markets, is it like you throw everything at the wall and you see what sticks? Or you really
Not
think
really,
you could
we're
be
really
building-
thinking. There are a lot of things we are rejecting.
Okay.
This is a really fundamental statement from Paula, not from the CEO REDstack. Water is very sexy, but no one look at it sexy. Water scarcity is a reality. Every year here in Europe we have floodings. Floodings means that you are trapping minerals and they end up in the water system and you need to remove them. We don't talk too much about it anymore. The sea continues rising. That means you have more salt intrusion. Groundwater will have more salt in the coming years.
More salt, but with low salinities, so somewhat your sweet spot. So you're a solution to that specific problem.
Yes.
Sounds like very timely.
Yes.
I'm going to make a weird association, so bear with me.
Yeah.
When I interviewed Aquaporin, they were pivoting to where they could make money, but they still kept as a dream to make forward osmosis happen at scale.
Okay.
Applied to you, that would be, you're now focusing on these 3-4 key markets, which have the best potential to have like a very profitable outcome for REDstack. Do you still have a portion of your mind which is like, if conditions in the market change, we could go back to the red element of REDstack and be producing that blue energy?
Yes, we could, because the technology is the same. The stacks are built the same, and you can just change the membranes. That is one of the strong, let's say, competitive arguments of REDstack. They are so standardized and so modular that in a year's time, we're going to go in an automatic production line, right? We go from 40 stacks per year to a minimum of 500 per year, a maximum of 1,500 in 3 shifts. If you ask me personally, the energy market is really complex. I mean, we see with the solar panels, there is no subsidy anymore in Europe for solar panels. Let's look at the electrical car, right? That was a nice subsidy for 5 years. And Europe is that a little bit taken away. I don't think that the market will change fast enough in the coming 5 years.
I see. You mentioned your upcoming automated facility.
Yes.
I think that's linked to your fundraise. How do you cope with those investors on board? And I guess that's also around the time where you joined as a CEO. So
yes,
the company is experiencing transformations.
Yes, a lot.
What is the substantial things we have to take out of that?
Every startup goes through this phase, right? From startup to scale up. That is exactly where we are. The founding is really go commercial and build the production automatic line. We have a year to do that. This is a heavy change for my team. And because of that, we are getting more people on the team to balance these needs.
So it's not only building the factory, it's also hiring people.
Yes, we just complete our management team. We just brought a chief of operations who will be on the lead, a CFO, right? We have 2 previous member teams that will stay, right? Our CTO is great, so this stay. Our chief of commercial operations is great with a lot of experience, he stays. But we needed to complete the team, bring extra engineers. We are currently searching for another sales manager because we need to go more proactive.
If that's you.
Yes, we are searching for someone. This is where, as CEO, you have to have the tact to do the changes that are making sense, right? And slowly. I cannot switch the team from the day I arrive because it will lead to mistakes. And mistakes, they cost money, a lot of money. So we are in this transition. We change our branding, we change the website, we generate our new vision. And you can imagine that the word money, it was a big discussion with the engineers, right? But at the end of the day, they understand we're in a phase that if you don't sell, you have a problem. You arrive to this point that is a critical mission. And if you are not selling, means that you are not targeting the right market.
Which leads me to the question which you're free to answer or not.
Okay, let's see.
What are your sales figures today and how do you see them evolving in the next 3 years?
I will transform your answer to references.
Okay.
Because in this phase, what is very much needed, we have 3 references in the carbon capture, which are great because are the most complex system that we can build. So we are learning a lot at the moment. We don't do this alone, we do with the Pure Water group. They integrate our stacks, but this is so complex, right? You have caustic liquids going around the electromembrane stack, and we are learning a lot with the most complex reference that we could have.
When you do such a reference, sorry, and then I'll let you go back to the rest of the explanation. You're still delivering the stacks, so someone is integrating it.
Yes.
How do you work with that integrator? Because it's still a foreign body. Not everybody has ever worked with a REDstack.
No, that is a good point. Look, at the moment we work with Pure Water Group because that is actually REDstack born from, but we are also talking to other integrators, right? Because we have projects in South America, in North America, and we are talking to integrators to know who could be a good fit with REDstack, right? We are in that process as well.
So you picked one which is your partner, but you want to be agnostic and to have more which are trained.
It's just business, right? You have to find the best partners.
So you mentioned your reference and you were about to give me revenue figures.
References. No, look, I will mention it how I said to my team. This is very important to go through a critical number of references in 3 years to survive. And that is around 30 references. It's just a number created, right? But if you don't go through that number in the first 3 years, you haven't made it. Because if you sell one project and the project is 20 million, but you have one reference, it doesn't help you. I said to my team, look, we need references. At the beginning, preferable small projects. Don't go too crazy, right? Don't go to 20, 30 stacks, go to 10 stacks. But we are already looking in 2 years' time, a project that could yield 40 stacks.
What is the sweet spot for you? Is it like doing a gigafactory with 2,000 stacks or doing like 200 projects with 10 stacks?
At this moment, because the product is so standardized, it doesn't matter. I prefer to put a target on customers that are happy.
Makes sense.
That counts more from my experience. To say we have introduced the technology and 10 different wastewaters or waters, that to say we deliver 500 stacks to one customer. Diversity, right? That I think counts more.
I'm trying to wrap my head around your lead investor.
Yeah.
How do you work with PureTerra?
They are great.
I know they're great, but how do you work with them?
How do we work? Well, look, PureTerra has a very well-structured strategy. They go into water, and that helps you. If you have an investor that will go into many markets, you will lose yourself. So that is the first. The strategy that PureTerra has, it helps you to be under their umbrella, right? Very structured. If I look at the companies, I already see potential cooperations with 3 of those companies.
That is what I wanted to.
I will mention a little bit, no details, but for example, there is one of the startups that could use our stacks to recover lithium. That is one. The second one I could mention is another one for which we will build the stacks with other membranes. So I didn't say. But there is a lot of.
I didn't name drop it just because I can't find the name anymore. But it's, the CEO is Zach.
qDEkkxwvEyg
Technologies.
Yeah. So there is a lot of synergies on what PureTerra Venture is building. This is synergies, right? You don't always find it so simple.
You got a check from PureTerra, which means you got a check from a venture capitalist, which has a timer, which is now ticking, which means within the next decade, you need to come to a stage where they can exit and make a nice multiple. So how do you incorporate that into your roadmap? Because REDstack is 20-ish year old, right?
Yes.
So now it's kind of an S curve which you need to take.
Yes.
Do you have to change the culture, for instance? And what would be your target for, let's say, 2030?
Yes. It's a delicate balance how you take the team through the change, right? Because it's almost day and night change, right? You put a new CEO and then we go to sell, right? And then you engineers say, but how?
But the previous CEO didn't vanish either. He's still on your board?
Yes, he's still on the board, right? We did a very nice transition, actually, that normally doesn't happen like that. So I'm very glad that we did it like that, right? We were together in December. That facilitates things. The target for us is this year we need to sell something. It's not just because you need to show to your investors, but because as a company, if you don't sell nothing, you need to question yourself. And on the right markets or not?
Makes sense.
So we need to sell this year 2 projects, let's say. Next year we go more hard, 5, 8 references. And this year is really building up for next year. This is our goal. You can try to translate it into euros, right? And 2030, we would like to be in the 20 million euros range.
We're at Aquatech.
Yes.
What is your key message for anyone stopping in front of that picture or the screen you have on the other side?
Yeah.
You have to give them like 1 or 2 sentences which they have to take home. Now we have the ability to do it. You can also look into the camera for that one.
Yes.
What is the key message you want everyone to take home?
If you want to do electrodialysis, you need to come to us because we have developed the best electrodialysis in the market, and this will save you water, chemicals, or money, all the three of them.
Water, chemicals, or money?
Yeah.
That's three. I want one. What is the number one?
Money then.
Money. Okay. You will save money. And you're hiring.
Yes, we're searching for people. Also, if you are interested, just come to talk to us.
Well, Paula, thanks a lot.
Great.
And I hope
Thanks
you have
a
the
lot.
opportunity to do a deeper dive because there's
Yes.
so much more
Yes.
to explore.
Yes.
And yeah, wish you the best.
We can do it whenever you want.
Now that we finished our top 5, it's time to move to the cherry on the cake with Aquatech's Digital Derby I was hosting. It's again PFAS destruction, but with a twist. I think it's fun. Let me show you. Welcome everybody to that session. I know you did a very good introduction, Barrel, but I'm going to do it in a Shark Tank style so that we can have a bit of ambience. We don't have the rights for the music, so play the music in your head while I reintroduce our judges. So we have Imagine H2O Sonora Hill separates water tech substance from startup season from Amsterdam's International Water Week to WEFTEC's Croc Tank. She's the portfolio watchdog with a talent for identifying tomorrow's solutions while mentoring today's entrepreneurs. Welcome, Sonora. And we have Katja. 20-year contaminant veteran Dr. Katja Amstetter applies her Leipzig environmental chemistry diploma and Tübingen geomicrobiology PhD to make PFAS problems solvable. As CDF Smith, Germany's knowledge management head, she's the expert who translates molecular level science into practical environmental solutions. Welcome, Katja! And finally, Bluetech's Jacob Steele maps PFAS destruction's future through his comprehensive Horizon Scan report. In his senior research analyst role, he expertly transitions between analyzing nitrous oxide emissions and occasionally breaking down complex water technologies as a special guest on the Blue Notes podcast. A really good podcast, not like the one I'm rambling on every Wednesday. Jacob is Bluetech's deep dive specialist who transforms technical complexity into actionable intelligence. Welcome, Jacob. So, now I'm going to do a little bit of mentalism because I don't have a Slido. You're going to all think of a successful PFAS destruction technology and I'm going to listen to you. Tell me, okay? Oh, it's a mixed bag. Oh, you have all different opinions. I'm hearing adsorption, I'm hearing electrochemical destruction, subcritical, supercritical water oxidation. I even hear someone, I'm not going to give a name, who says plasma. So, everybody is entitled to their opinions. Now, close the doors, trap everybody inside. By the end of this session, I'm going to take 10,000 euros of your money. So, if you don't want to lose it, you better pick the right horse in that digital derby. And our first pitch is going to be from Delhi Ray's Fadra Mushtaq turned childhood water anxiety into scientific revolution. Her ETH Zurich-born startup Oxyle obliterates forever chemicals in minutes with 99% efficiency, proving that forever was merely a suggestion waiting for the right nanotechnology. Fadra, the stage is yours.
I'm the CEO and co-founder of Oxyle. We're really happy to be able to present Oxyle's mission, which is clean water down to the last drop. My journey with water started many years ago when I was a child. I come from a beautiful place called Kashmir in the north of India, surrounded by clean water, but you can drink the tap water just by opening it. I also spent most of my childhood in New Delhi, the capital of India, where the reality of water was very different for me. Completely polar opposite in the months of summer when it comes to access to water. So at that age, I knew I would like to put water at the core frontal center of what I want to do in my life, which is what brought me to ETH Zurich many years ago, like 13 years ago now, for my doctoral thesis, in which I was developing new micro nanomaterials that could destroy toxic chemicals, like forever chemicals, in a sustainable, cost-effective manner. I co-founded Oxyle 5 years ago with a clean mission. We don't just want to provide a solution that just sits somewhere. We really want to work very closely with the customers in providing a comprehensive, all-in-one solution, a holistic solution that takes care of all of their problems. So how do we do that? In the first step, we take in the contaminated water, we up-concentrate that with the help of a proprietary foam fractionation technology. We up-concentrate PFAS 10 to 50x. Then, in the second step, we take this up-concentrated PFAS foam, transfer that into a destruction unit, where we do a catalytic oxidation reduction process. This step here, the destruction process, is what I was developing during my doctoral thesis at ETH. It's a new class of material where we are able to use mechanical energy, low-energy mechanical energy sources like bubbles in the water, vibrations in the water, to activate this catalyst for destruction. So oxidation reduction process for mineralization and release of safe-to-discharge water. For us, the journey does not just stop there. We also wanted to bring more transparency to the market by showing to our customers we can also monitor PFAS discharge limits are being met or not in real time with the help of our AI-driven machine learning model. So basically what we're giving to our customers today is a treatment that removes long, medium, short-chain PFAS by destroying these chemicals at energy values that are category defining 1 kilowatt hours per meter cubed today. We also help our customers meet their ESG goals by leaving them with no secondary waste. And it's also a technology that is not just an idea or a pipe dream in the lab. It is a technology that we have successfully scaled to 10 meter cubes per hour and longer, running on customer sites. A good example of that is what you can see on the slide here. So this is a customer in Switzerland. It's a chemical park customer. They have a lot of PFAS in their groundwater that they contaminated. Water comes in, 700 ppt of PFAS in it. We up-concentrate it to 8,000 ppt. And after both of these steps, we release the water after treatment, which again, always below 100 ppt. That is the discharge limits in Switzerland. And at the same time, we were giving them a 93% accuracy on how they were meeting the discharge limit. So if they were meeting a 100 pp discharge limit or not, they had a 93% accuracy on that every single day. Besides this customer, we also have a lot of different projects that are running on our customer sites, not just in Switzerland now, but also in Belgium and Netherlands, and soon France and Italy as well. What we're deploying today is our modular reactors. They come in different sizes, starting from 10 meter cubes per day capacity, all the way to 100 meter cubes per hour treatment capacity, doing batch as well as fully continuous flow systems. Our journey started about 5 years ago with 2 founders in the lab out of ETH. Today, we're about 30 people in the team, having raised $26 million in funding and already shown that we have treated 3 million liters of PFAS-contaminated water with operations in Western Europe. And what I'm really excited to do is our scale-up journey that we're going to see in the next 3 to 4 years, which is converting our 50-plus customer pipeline today into full-scale contracts, going from piloting to full-scale with all of them. And not just doing this in the countries that we know of today, in Western Europe, but also expanding to US and hopefully to Asia as well. And with that, also treating more than 100 million liters of PFAS-contaminated water. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm really excited to take your questions.
What a pitch. You have then 5 minutes and 10 seconds of question. Round of applause for Fadger. See you back at the end. You might want to put the 10,000 on Oxyle, but we have a second contestant entering the scene. Innovation veteran Dilip Sivam brings Bill Gates-level tech scaling experience to PFAS destruction. After advising Microsoft's former CTO, he's now leading Aquagga's 99% effective hydrothermal process. The corporate executive who decided forever chemicals needed an expiration date is you. The seat is yours.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. It's good to be here from Seattle, Washington. So I'm going to jump in here. Like Antoine said, my name is Dilip Sivam. I'm the new CEO of Aquagga. I've been there for 4 months, so it's been quite a ride. I come from the power systems world, so all of this is new to me. This is my first water tech conference, so thank you for welcoming me here. And the title of my slide is We Focus on the Customer. I will explain why I titled my presentation that. My career path has taught me something. I spent about 15 years in what I'll call general technology, more or less software. I've spent about 15 years in climate and sustainability. Again, most of that in power systems to date. And it's a nice little juxtaposition between both sides of the fence. The lesson that I've learned is clean tech companies need to make that customer-focused shift faster than they do. The science is important. The regulatory head or tailwinds is important. Clean tech needs to be relentlessly customer-focused earlier than they do. I would make the argument that selling something like a PFAS destruction system is a lot like any other major purchase. People care about cost, convenience, effectiveness. So that's what we really focus on at Aquagga, cost, convenience, effectiveness. So our system is a high-pressure, high-temperature, high-pH PFAS destruction reaction. It's called hydrothermal alkaline treatment, or HALT. So how it works is we have PFAS-contaminated water coming in. We amend with sodium hydroxide to raise the pH. We raise the temperature, we raise the pressure, and out comes discharge-safe water. Couple interesting things here. We stay subcritical. That's really beneficial from an energy standpoint. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And also we have a really slick tube-in-tube heat recovery and for energy efficiency in the reaction. That first customer driver, cost. We're out there talking to a lot of customers, and the numbers that we're hearing for ship and incinerate are somewhere in the $3 to $7 per gallon. So let's just call it $5 per gallon on average. We're able to do that for about $1.10 a gallon. That's including OpEx, so that's including energy, it's including chemical amendments, and it's including sort of any sort of support or warranty contracts that we have. That's the total cost to the customer. So that's a price per gallon saving of over $3.90. So if you look at a typical fluorochemical plant running 5 of our Stampede systems, that's our biggest system, the Stampede system. We have 3 different systems to fit our customers' needs. If you look at a fluorochemical plant running 5 of these at full capacity, I think they'd break even on that purchase in about a year and a half. And we think their annual savings on PFAS destruction will be close to $10 million a year. Now, I don't want to be that startup CEO that presents the endlessly rising curve, right? So I do want to say here, there are going to be cases with more recalcitrant forms of PFAS where that number is not going to be as favorable, but we're never going to hit $5 a gallon in our system, right? We're always going to be cheaper than ship and incinerate. The other drivers of customer decision-making, convenient. We're really focused on, hey, we got to sell these to plant managers, and plant managers have a lot on their mind. We can install this thing in 24 hours. It's a small footprint. We have remote monitoring. We have warranty and service contracts. We make it easy on the plant manager, and it's effective. This is highly vetted. There's a lot of academic work on the benefits of HALT, right? This is something you can go and look at unbiased academic papers that can tell you that HALT works. And on the topic of academic papers, one paper that we're particularly proud of is a paper that we co-authored with 3M, detailing some of the bench testing that we did before a really successful pilot project we did at one of their plants. We completely destroy all types of PFAS, short chain, long chain, medium chain. We do it all. We're also really robust to high total dissolved solutes. We're cost effective, we're convenient, and we're effective. And another thing we're effective at is we effectively spend money. With only $1.1 million in dilutive funding, we've done all this. We haven't taken a lot of funding. We have just been incredibly efficient and gone a long way, and not a lot of investment. One bit of bragging, we hope in the next couple months to close our first customer sale and have our first full installation on a customer site end of this year or early 2026.
Awesome pitch. Despite 2 interruptions, so really good pitch. By now, you should have 10,000 euro in your pocket. We want to be spent, but wait, because we have one more pitch. Thanks a lot, Dilip, for the great presentation. Imperial College wonderkid Henrik Hagemann transformed his graduate project into a billion-person water mission. The Forbes 30 under 30 honoree, why do I say that? Twice guest on my podcast is more prestigious, right? Developed Puratech, essentially molecular PFAS magnets, then traded his CEO title to focus on what he does best, making water purification technology that thinks bigger. Welcome, Henrik Hagemann.
Thank you. We do not do destruction. I am not the CEO. And we do not have a full-scale installation, but you might still want to listen more. My second thing is, if you've been in the water space for more than 10 years, I suggest you put your hand up, and then you can look around. This is really a water-strong sector. And one thing that you find in the water sector is that it's tough. So for me personally, before Puraffinity, I was a Shaolin monk student, so I was getting punched in the face, 40 hours a week, training Kung Fu. And there's actually a lot of overlap with being in the water space. You get punched in the nose a lot by the market. We founded Puraffinity 10 years ago. And what Puraffinity do is we develop concentration step. We know our niche and we specialize in that. And I get really excited about it. So where we want to go today is talk about form factor. Form factor matters. We went from the 1980s IBM big desktops towards a small compact iPhone. And today, PFAS is treated with petroleum-derived ion exchange from the 1950s. It's a technology that leads to toxic waste at the end of its life. And it also means that we need massive volumes to treat it, really large tanks. And so my question to you is, what if we could make compact systems a thing for PFAS treatment? At Puraffinity, we enable compact PFAS treatment. So you can go from 30 large tanks of activated carbon towards just 3 or 4 cartridges of Puratech G400 and still have the same throughput. So it's a fundamental change, and the new CEO we have, the Veolia WaterTech Solution CEO, he likes to say it's a fundamental change. It's different operation, it's much simpler to install, and it's a different end user experience. You can run around with cartridges rather than tanks. What you might ask when it comes to this is, what is it powered by? So at Puraffinity, we power these vessels with Puratech G400. It's better, faster, and cheaper. So there's a graph here to show that it lasts 7 times longer in more than 5 different third-party validation trials for short and long-chain PFAS capture. One of the testing sites had so much conviction in this data that they are now a shareholder, and that is the largest private environmental services company in North America, Heritage Group. What I get excited about here is we have an engine for discovery of these new materials. So the material looks like a 0.5 millimeter wide granule, can fit into vessels, but we get all this data on the relationships between the structure and the performance, and we use that data to develop new products as the regulations change. So you can see these are the EPA 6 regulations from 2024, and I believe with generational Gen AI, there will be companies that can own their own data sets and use them to discover new materials to combat pollution. And so that's where I see Puraffinity move to long term. We have a view towards cradle-to-grave PFAS treatment, where we understand our niche. We enable destruction companies, and we want to enable them. So we sell B2B adsorbent media to environmental solution providers. Then we take these cartridges back to a recycling center. And there you can destroy the PFAS so that there's no PFAS salts going out to the environment. But importantly, and what we're looking to launch in 2026, is you can reuse this material with a step called regeneration. And so regeneration allows you to reuse the cartridges, a bit like how SpaceX reuse their rockets for going to space, and it fundamentally changes the unit economics of PFAS treatment. Then you can send them back, and at the end of life, we are now collaborating with 2 different PFAS solid destruction companies, where you can use PFAS destruction technologies instead of incineration for disposal. With that, I would like to welcome you to join us on the vision to scale this up. I believe climate tech will be addressed by companies who know the project delivery that's required for these value chains. And so that's why I gave up the CEO title. I am very excited about the new CEO we've brought on. And we're now scaling up that team. So my ask to you is actually, we'd like to speak to anyone who knows users of PFAS. We'd also like to speak to anyone who has environmental remediation connections and really talk about elevating the way we tackle PFAS. Thank you.
Awesome, Henrik. Thanks a lot. Let's move to our next question session. I'm going to call back all our 3 pitchers, and we have again 5 minutes because you have to spend 10,000 euros of your money. You have to. You should read the little things which happen on the contract when you're beeping your badge at the entry. So now it's your time to do due diligence. You have 5 minutes to raise questions to the 3 of them, and you better be safe with your money. Who wants to go first?
Thanks. This question goes to Henrik. I just want to know if your technology is scalable already. Can you scale up the production of your adsorbents?
In the last 3 months, we got REACH approval for manufacturing between 10 to 100 tons. So that's our new manufacturing COO. And that has now enabled us to manufacture more than 500 kilos in the last 3 months. And we have 2 different production sites. So we have a site here in UK already, and we're now getting a second one rolled up in Asia Pacific to really scale after that regulatory approval.
Does your technology, does it work, say, efficiently enough so you can clean, enough water for this to be actually just a permanent installation at a utility? Because I believe one of your slides, Fajia, mentioned that you were aiming to clean 1 million liters. 100 milliliters, but that's 1,000 cubic meters.
Yeah. Is your question if we could scale this to treat municipal level water quantities? Yes. So typical municipal plants, yes, 1 to 50 million liters per hour is what the capacity is. So we're not treating municipal water today. We're really going to our industrial water customers and environmental remediation projects for 2 different reasons. One, startup, you have to scale the production of the catalyst to that level, right? So that's not a first, and it's a big entry barrier, and the pay point is of course not as lucrative when you talk to a chemical company customer that needs to produce PFAS, has 100 ppm of PFAS in it, and you can charge premium pricing, and you can also do the best case solution for them, which is not contaminate downstream. So we are going where we don't need to produce a lot of catalysts. So today we treat about 100 meter cubes per hour capacity, which is already quite a scalable flow rate. But to reach million liters per hour, we're not there yet, because that is what you require for municipal plants. We're also kind of waiting for better regulations to come there, which will make us better and more competitive in activated carbon and all, which is already there in the market.
I was just going to jump in. We just started municipal sites in the US where the full installation will, if it converts, would only convert in 27, but it would be 150 mgd, megagallons per day. And the benefit is the fast flow rate, basically. So you get a smaller system for these very large installations.
So this is for Farshare. So you mentioned about the AI used to detect and diagnose, right? So what kind of methods are you using to validate your destruction process?
We all know there is no sensor in the market today which can detect, to PPT level, real-time PFAS concentration.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the due diligence period is over. We're going to put the Slido up, and it's time for you to invest 10,000 euro. So you can pick between any of the three companies. So what number do we consider final in terms of voting? I guess Badger wants to stop now. The two others want to keep voting. I think we can stop here. And congratulate our winner. So, Badger. And if you win an award, how do you celebrate that as a Swiss company? Well, with a raclette, of course. I'll take you back when I've eaten that. And with that, another Aquatech is in the books. But before we wrap up, I have some personal thoughts. Some of you came to tell me that they sold directly or indirectly through the podcast, people coming to them saying, oh, I heard you, and hence I trusted you and I wanted to do some business with you. And honestly, that's heartwarming for me. That's exactly why I'm doing all those content. It's to connect people and to be the cheerleader for this industry. So I love that. Thanks for sharing it, but also thanks to you listening, watching to this, to interact with the great professionals who come on the microphone. I have a special place here in my closing for Franz Durier, who came to me to talk about his company, who was my first pick, #1 at last Aquatech. And he told me some interesting developments about what he's seeing in terms of new potential in the UK, in new territories. He might need investors to follow him on that path. So if that's you, or if you're interested in a speak with Purgatoria, reach out to me or reach out to friends. I'm happy to be the mailman. And that's it. Let me do the proper wrap-up. So that's it. This was Aquatech. I hope you liked this year's coverage. If it's the case, consider liking and subscribing. And if you're one of these people who travel from conferences to trade shows to conferences, I might see you again at the Global Water Summit in Paris. If that's the case and you want to speak, hit me up, send me a message, and I'll see you there. So I told you it's over, but it's not true, because there's a third DJ, and the third DJ is no one else than Mr. Walid Khoury!
Antoine, just on time, just on time. Yeah.